All right, everyone, it's time for new polling because another new poll just dropped. Now, I usually work with aggregates, but there is one startling thing that I see here, link in the description, which is that my prediction has already come correct about the fallout from the Iowa event. You'll remember, of course, you've got Desantis and Haley and Hutchinson, who cares, Tim Scott, Ramaswamy, etc., Mike Pence. The most memorable performance for all the wrong reasons going to Iowa in order to appear with Tucker Carlson. And they each had their own slot, and some of them did better than others. And what I said then is that I didn't expect Trump to be... Trump's not going to get knocked off his pedestal just because he skipped one event. In fact, he remains dominant. He's 32 points ahead of Desantis, and it has been pointed out jovially by Trump fans that Vivek Ramaswamy is closer to DeSantis polling than DeSantis is to Trump. And he's managing to do this, by the way, in a field of 12 people. Whereas Biden has a bigger lead, but he's only got two also-rans against him. Hippie Grandma and the dude with the speaking impediment. Although RFK Jr. is definitely getting disproportionate amounts of attention right now, he hasn't really been able to capitalize upon that to rise above his long term. He's in the double digits, so, technical viability, but he's up against an incumbent who doesn't appear to even proceed with a campaign. Joe Biden is effectively a no-show right now, and the reason why is because he knows he gets the nomination, of course, unless he croaks or something. Trump remains dominant, and I said that DeSantis did well enough at that event so that it wouldn't change the polling metric. He's not suddenly going to be at 40 points, but at the same time, he's not going to really lose any support. He's been slowly losing steam anyway. The event, I don't think, went well enough for him, despite the bravado of DeSantis fans, to really uplift him. But it wouldn't bring him down either. Now it's basically the epic battle for third place. I said that Mike Pence would drop off the face of the earth and Ramaswamy probably rise into third place. Indeed, if the latest poll were an aggregated number, that'd be true already. Mike Pence now only leads Ramaswamy by 0.3 in the polling average. Ramaswamy had like 2 points a few weeks ago, in the aggregate, of course. Now he is above 5. He's actually segued into the almost sort of viable rung, where he's now competitive for third place. Now, future events could go differently, but when Mike Pence became, a nightmarish meme about not being concerned about U.S. domestic policy and only apparently caring about Ukraine and Israel, it didn't go over so well, and so I speculated that he would lose support there. Ramaswamy, though, was the standout as far as being able to explain himself coherently. So for the people that were watching, sitting there at home or in the audience, I think Vivek Ramaswamy really won the night. And so I suspect that over the next week, as more polling comes in, Ramaswamy will officially topple Pence for third place. Now, what happens from there? Ron DeSantis, of course, is lagging off. Trump is not the one absorbing that support. Effectively, what we see are a combination of people who like MAGA but are hesitant to nominate Trump again for electability reasons, for age reasons, maybe they just don't like his personality, and people who dislike Trump, they're scrambling around to try to find some alternative. I suspect that in the end they won't find one. It would be interesting indeed if Ramaswamy ended up being their go-to guy. By the way, Ramaswamy very likely to endorse Trump if he drops out, if his comments are any indicator, both on issues and about Trump and indictments, indictment gate you could call it at this point. I would say that Ramaswamy, if he dropped out tomorrow, he'd just endorse Trump. And that would seal the deal, by the way, because if you add, the non-reluctant for Trump element of his vote to Trump's numbers, it becomes insurmountable. You no longer have any possibility of anyone holding out past Super Tuesday. Half the field probably drops before that. And even if they were all to endorse DeSantis or wherever else is in second place at that time, maybe it's Haley. It'd be funny if it was Asa Hutchinson now, wouldn't it? The CIA spook. It wouldn't really matter. They would never get beyond 30, 35 points, and Trump would be gobbling down the delegates. I suspect going into this primary season, barring Trump dying, which, he's in his 70s, so we have to keep that in mind. He's an older dude. He's not as old and he's certainly not as fucked up as Biden, but he's 77, so yeah, we've got to keep an eye on his health. Barring that, or barring an act of Congress to deliberately disqualify Trump from running at all, which would be, I think, disastrous to the deep state, and I think they're averse to doing it. We've crossed a couple of Rubicons lately. That may be a bridge too far for a significant proportion of the population. In fact, Trump could end up winning on a write-in campaign simply because the American people grow so disdainful and distrustful of the government. Doesn't help that you've also got the reignition of the Burisma scandal and Hunter Biden cover-up at the moment, rampaging through the news cycle, to the point where even the legacy media has to talk about it, even if it's all a bunch of Coke posts. I suspect that there are now one of two things that happens in the GOP primary. Either Trump knocks everyone out by Nevada, or he knocks everyone out on Super Tuesday. Here's the two scenarios. Trump is ahead in all four of the starting states. South Carolina, I think, is his. Iowa is his to lose, so he would have to fuck up significantly, I think, to lose Iowa. New Hampshire is really the one, and to an extent Nevada, where Desantis, in theory, could mount a successful campaign. In fact, he is focusing on the first states. He has withdrawn from the Super Tuesday states. If, therefore, he cannot win a single state in the first four, he's done, because he won't have time to pivot around a campaign, including in his own home state. If DeSantis wins one of the first two states, which is, I think, his goal, hey, I won a state, continue voting for me, everyone else drop and endorse me because you've got no chance, and then maybe, just maybe, I can pull it off. It's a Hail Mary campaign. DeSantis is hoping that Trump is in prison, legally disqualified, and has to mount an unofficial write-in, or something like that, or that scenario plays out. If he wins one of the first states, I suspect that Trump will crush him on Super Tuesday by winning 10 of the 13 or thereabouts, including Florida most likely. I don't think that DeSantis would be, he'd be humiliated. If he loses his home state by even a point, there's no longer any way for his fans to defend him. I think he would drop the next day. I suspect that you will end up with a narrow field where there are a couple of people who hold out. Ramaswamy might be one of them, actually, given his now newfound viability, because he's actually coherent. It's something you don't often see in the GOP field. I suspect you'll have a neocon also ran. It could be Hutchinson. It could be Pence, which would be hilarious. I don't know that Mike Pence is even going to make it to Iowa, actually. If he falls too low and the fundraising dries up, and what little traction he was actually gaining there for a while, he was absorbing votes from DeSantis, I think, more than anything else. If that dries up and Pence falls below maybe 4 points or thereabouts, so he starts to make his way down the field in the literal sense, I don't think that he can hang on, because his style of campaigning is more traditionalistic, and so it's more top-heavy. How can you do that if you don't have any money? He'd have to drop out. It would be hilarious if Mike Pence, and good for the country, I think, if Mike Pence weren't even in the primaries. If he drops out before the voting begins, I think it would be great. He might drop down so low that he no longer qualifies for some of the goodies that the GOP hands out to viable candidates. Well, for a former vice president, that would be damning. It's not damning for someone like Larry Elder. It's not damning, Vivek Ramaswamy with no political experience. If that were happening to him, he can still hold on. He can run a streamlined campaign that is effectively just him doing podcasts if he wants. You've got Tim Scott. He could probably manage to maintain. Mike Pence, I don't think, can. So I think at this point, going into the first states, a few people will have dropped before Iowa. Most people will drop before Super Tuesday. The rest will pretty much drop after Super Tuesday. Trump will win, in my estimation, 3.5 of the first 4 states. There is an even odd that he loses one of them, possibly New Hampshire. I think that's where it's closest in the polling aggregate. He then goes on to win a majority of the Super Tuesday states, including Florida. That seals the deal. That's what I speculate is most likely to happen. But we're still months out from that voting beginning, and things could change. That's just, if nothing else changes, if the trajectory of the race remains identical to what it is now, and it won't, it'll change in some fashion or another. If nothing else changes or doesn't change significantly, Trump will be nominee. It won't be DeSantis, that is his running mate probably, by the way. DeSantis has effectively already sworn off he's disavowed the concept. Although in politics, sometimes you go back on your word. Look at Nikki Haley. She pledged that if Trump ran, she wouldn't run. Well, she's in the running. Whoops. Yeah, and not doing too well. Although again, like with DeSantis at the Iowa event, she at least explained herself well enough so she didn't drop off a cliff like Mike Pence is. Vivek Ramaswamy is probably not taking votes from Mike Pence. I think he's getting them more from DeSantis, actually, at this point. Maybe a few from Trump as well. There's definitely some ideological overlap. Interesting times. We might end up with a situation where we have a geriatric incumbent Democrat with clear-cut Alzheimer's under investigation for multiple international scandals up against a dude who's running from house arrest who is an incumbent non-incumbent. This is a wild election season. This is more energetic than 2016 so far. That's about all. Peace out.